Well, hey guys, Shanna Cramer here with Creatively Uncorked, and this is our painting of the week. This one is Sunset Through the Pine Trees. I'll think harder on that later, but for now, let's go with that title. Anyway, this is a remake of one of our old paintings that we were teaching in the studio that was watercolor. Well, this I've converted into an acrylic painting, which is a little bit different. Okay, it's a lot bit different. The painting technique is totally different. The style is different. The painting on canvas board now instead of on paper. You can use a canvas, of course, that's fine. Anyway, this is a nice, quick, easier than it looks painting, although it can be complicated if you make it. So try not to think too hard and just tap, tap, tap your trees in. The paint colors that we're going to be using today are white, blue, yellow, and red. If you want to be specific, I've got phthalo blue, cad-free yellow, and quinacridone red. Get yourself a cup of water. You're going to need that to mix in with your paint and to rinse your brushes. Keep a paper towel handy. The three brushes that I used on this painting today are the big flat, or the 1-inch flat, the medium flat, in this case a 5/8 inch flat, and a medium filbert, which is a 1/2 inch filbert. There is no sketch for this painting. It's really, really super easy. All we do is draw a hill, draw another hill, and then we put some trees in. So we don't really need a pre-sketch for this one or any kind of a tracing template. We're using acrylic paint today, which dries quickly, dries permanently. Normally it dries quickly. Today it is very humid here, so this painting is not drying quickly at all. You can probably see how wet the paint still is, and it will probably be that way for at least another hour. Acrylic paint does dry permanently, so if you spill any on your clothing, you're going to want to rinse that out right away. Otherwise it's going to dry, and then you'll have something to remember this painting by. If you get paint in your brushes, be sure to leave your brushes in your water for the remaining of your painting session. And at the end of the painting session, rinse them out really well. Swish your brushes at the bottom of the cup to rinse them out. And then take them to the sink, clean them with soap and water. Dish soap can work if you don't have anything else. Liquid soaps work pretty well. Otherwise, if you wanted to get fancy, you can use something like a Master's brush soap. Be sure to keep the caps on your paint. If you put your paint on your palette and then you walk away from it for any amount of time, it's probably going to dry out. It will dry as fast as your painting will. So just be sure to not walk away from a half-finished painting for too long, or you are going to pour out a little bit more paint. Hit pause, get yourself settled in, get your supplies out and your canvas ready. Grab a beverage if you need one. Come back when you're all set up and ready to paint, and we'll begin. This painting is going to go by pretty quickly. I painted it pretty fast, so you're going to want to keep your hand on that pause button. I do suggest watching the whole video first and then re-watching it to paint along. When you re-watch it, keep that pause button handy. All right, let's get started. Well, hello friends, Shanna Cramer here with Creatively Uncorked, and today we have a special painting. This is one of the old paintings from our Creatively Uncorked library in the watercolor section. Back when we had our West Fargo studio, we would teach watercolor classes about once a week, Watercolor Wednesday, that's what we did. And this was one of those paintings. Well, I recently had a request for this painting at a private party, and we aren't doing watercolor in parties anymore because I sold off all the supplies when we closed the studio. So I am going to set this up, have it ready for my inspiration piece, and redo this in acrylic. Starting out with a pencil, I'm going to add a hill, which is about, that big. I'll add another little hill over here. In the middle, there's going to be sun. We want that all to be sun. So over here, we're going to have some mid-sized trees. You don't want to get too involved with drawing those, but they're going to be on the second hill. And then over on the left side, we're going to have some big trees. We're going to have kind of a little tree there, kind of a big tree there, and kind of a honking huge tree that goes right off the top. We don't even see the center of it. It's so darn tall. Main focus is happening right in here. Now this is a snowy hill, so it's a little bit on the blue side. So I'm thinking maybe we can just make it a little like dark bluish purplish, take away from the snowiness of it and kind of make it just kind of a stylized any season theme. All right, so let's get started with some colors. I know for sure we're going to need white and red, yellow, blue. Those are going to be our standard colors this time. Let's see, I'll put the yellow over here because I want clean, pure yellow. And then I'll go with red in between. Oh, running out of red, it sounds like. All right, I better get to ordering more. I'm kind of discovering that I can't live without this paint anymore. I've been liking it a lot. This is a Liquitex soft body, and I'll give you a link. If you're watching this on YouTube, there will be a link in the description. If you're watching this elsewhere, I'll probably still remember to give you a description. And when I say probably, I mean only probably. I'm starting out with my big flat brush. Any large brush will do. Get that brush wet. We're going to take a lot of white. And I'm actually going to come in here and like fill in this background with a liquidy white. Liquid white. That's what Bob Ross used to call it. You say liquid white. You cover your canvas in liquid white. And that's going to help all of your other colors blend into it. Of course, Bob Ross was an oil painter, and we're using acrylics here to mimic watercolor. So, I mean, hey, we can liquid white it up. Well, I probably don't need to go all the way to the top of the canvas. I'm just making the sky, but I did it. It's done. Okay, so now I'm going to start with a little touch of yellow. Little touch. Bright. I want that area to be super bright, which means, counterintuitive, I know, but it means you only want a little bit of yellow, so it stays bright. Okay, you're just going to have that white showing. Now we're going to come into a little bit of let's do a little bit of orange here. A little bit red, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of water. And we're just going to blend that all in on that with that liquidy white. I'm going to come right on up into the edge, right on over to the outside of that. Okay, and if you're catching up, you hit the pause button, okay? You hit the pause button as often as you need to catch up. And no, I'm painting fast. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm wiping the extra paint off on the paper towel so I have a mostly dry, clean brush. And then just sort of blending that in. As soon as that brush starts picking up some paint, dry it off again. Okay, and I'm only concerned with blending it with the yellow just in the center area because this is going to get a little more red. I'll come over here on the red side of the red this time. A little more red. So I'm going from yellow to orange to red. And oh boy, am I making a mess with this paint. You know what though? Making a mess with paint makes me happy. There you go. I will make a mess with the paint if I want to. And you are welcome to as well. Apologize your carpet later. There we are. So, and it's okay to leave it a little brush strokey and streaky because, you know, I like my paintings brush strokey and streaky. Because it's easy to fix later, and also because if you didn't have clouds in your sky, you wouldn't be getting anywhere near this amount of texture. So, there, just take some white from over on this side. Okay, a little blue, a little purple. And because we've got that liquid white on our background, this should be lightening up and blending as we go. The trick with blending on acrylic paint, of course, is you have to blend wet into wet. That's the key right there. So if you paint slowly, this technique is not going to work for you. You're going to have to go with a faux blend. And if you're not sure what the faux blend is, that's where you have dry brush strokes over the top of other dry paint. And I have a full lesson on this on the Creatively Uncorked members site. And if you go to members.creativelyancorked.com, you're going to find that a bunch of extra lessons in there, and those are going to be for the members, but then you can also purchase them individually, which is great because there's a class called Acrylic Painting 101, and it covers all this stuff, all of it. Covers the different kinds of blends, different kinds of paint, different brushes, different brush strokes, how to achieve different techniques. And right now I'm trying to achieve a little bit of a blendy blend between that purpley blue and that orangey orange without making a mess. See, wiping off the paint every time. Okay, but then there's also a time that you just have to stop and leave it alone. And I'm at that point now. When it stops getting better and starts getting worse instead, you're done. Put the brush down and let that canvas dry. Okay, so that's what you should do. Me, I don't follow my own rules. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the ground. So the ground, I wanted this to be a nice dark purpley blue. So similar to that sky color. And I want the darkest to be up in here on the background hill. And actually, come to think of it, I want more red on the inside of that hill. You know why? Because it's closest to the sun. So it's going to be the warmest color. Wiping out that brush again. A little bit more white in my purple this time. Still more blue than red. It's a very bluey purple. And I'm just coming in and covering those edges there a little bit before doing a big swoopty through. Okay, so this part here is going to, ooh, let's see. I want that to be a little more pink. There we are. So you've got some highlights coming in here. All right, very nice. Now we can go back to our regularly scheduled purpley blue. This is silly, I know, but I just put this new table cover down and I'm actually trying to avoid painting on it. If your brush is really soft, or if your paint isn't covering the canvas quite as well as you think it should, if you're seeing a bunch of dots through it, that might mean you just don't have enough water in your paint. So just go ahead and add a little bit of water. Mix it into your paint on your palette, and then keep right on going. Now I think I'm going to dive right into the trees. If you want to take a break, now would be a really great time for that. But I'm just going to go ahead and dive into my trees. So where the sun is in the center is going to be the reddest part of the trees, just like it's the reddest part of the ground. So I'm just going to take you can use the same brush if you want. I'm just switching to a slightly smaller brush, about a 3/4 of 5/8. Okay, so I'm taking my reds, a little bit of orangey. Got my little tree down here. You know what? That's a little too blue. Let's go with more orange. Got some red, got some yellow. Back down there into that tree, which is going to be about, like I said, so tall. And I'm going to try triangling it, okay? So like I'm pushing the brush down from the center of the tree down to the outside of the tree. I think it's helpful to have a lot of paint for this technique. And it could be that I'm having a little trouble with it just because I'm painting onto a wet background. A little more red. We'll go on to the medium tree. There. Now I'm just tap-a-tap-a-tap, tap-a-tap-a-tap, tap-a-tap. Got that red on there. And because it's blending into the colors in the background so much, I'm starting to lean toward here, pure red. Yeah, because that's blending in and it's fading it off into kind of an orangey color anyway. So I might as well just punch it up with some pure red in there. By the way, it's better for you to just watch this entire video, then paint along. You'll know when you need to pause, and if I misspoke, if on a technique, then you can just ignore it and know what to do the right time when you go through it and actually paint. All right, so I'm cleaning my brush, same brush, and I'm doing the background of the third tree, which is a little more reddy purpley. Less water, more red, more blue. More blue. Okay, just tippy tippy tap tap. See if I can tilt it up a little here. There we are, tippy taps. Oops, nope, forget it. Nope, that's just gonna make a mess. All right, back on the ground it goes. Like I was just saying, I'll watch the video first. Tippy tippy tap tap, tippy tippy tap. That is how the trees go. Just give it a little mush-a-mush. Okay, so kind of doing my second layer now on those smaller trees, which is, I do want a lot of that red to show through, like a lot, especially when it's closer to the sun. So I'm kind of adding my leaves in here a little bit sort of away from the sun. You know, just adding, it's a little more like a shadow layer than it is like a true full pile of trees. Keeping it purple here, not just blue. Okay, and then I'm just going to blend it into the ground a little bit there. There. Okay. Now I'm going to move over to the right-hand side, and I can see some things that I might want to do a little bit differently. All right, I'm going to have some taller, distant trees, and these are going to be faded, so they're going to be a little white, a little purple. Purple, of course, being red and blue. And I'll kind of tap in one of those and give it a little. You know what? I'm going to switch brushes for this. These are tinier trees over here, so I'll still do the mushy mush technique, but I'll do it with a different brush. Okay, so now that I'm getting further down, I'm going to start switching to red. And notice I'm not cleaning the brush, I'm just going into the red paint and just adding more red. And it might seem like it's not doing a lot right now, but it's going to start turning purple as the blue wears out of this brush. See, it's getting a little purple already, and now it's starting to go a little more red. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to take a little bit more red yet. I'm going to go a little boop. A little bit of a reddish tree down here. Okay, I have some branches coming in off the side over on the way right side from a taller tree that we're not really seeing. We just get to see a couple of little branches that are sticking out. Now it's kind of reddish hanging out in front. Okay, wiping the paint off the brush. We're going with a lot more red this time. This should be pretty darn red. Okay, so we've got some little background trees. Gonna be some little, they're right in front of the sun now, so they're gonna be pretty red. I'm gonna do one of those over here on the left side, and that's gonna be, again, pretty darn red. Okay, so that's looking good there. Wiping the paint off that brush again, diving right straight into the blue, mostly blue. There's red underneath it, so it'll turn purple, but what I'm doing is I'm adding in the shadows. Sun's coming from the back. The shadows are going to be on this side. So I'm going to be darkening up some of those branches and still letting the red show through. All right, all the way down to the hill, and then we'll get that hill a little blended in here. And this paint is starting to dry, so this is going to be a faux blend. See, I'm just kind of dry brushing over it, so you see both colors. You see the color I'm putting down now, and you see the color behind it. So that is a faux blend. Okay, so we're looking good there, looking good here. Okay, at this point, I really am going to put the brush down and let it dry, which could take a really long time in this humidity. Nah, I lied. I'm not waiting that long. I'm not made out of patience. So I'm going back to my little bit bigger brush, the medium brush at this point, I guess it is. Gonna wipe that off. Start I'm picking up some blue in my red. I'm sorry, some white in my red. And that's going to be right down here. That's where the sun is hitting this front hill. Okay, so that's going to have to be blue because that's what color it is, right? That's what color our ground is. And then it's going to have to be red because that's what color our sun is. And then it's going to have to be white because it has to be brighter than the background. Or it has to be brighter than the hill behind it. Okay, so that's how we know what colors to mix. In this case, it's going to be just end up being a light purple. And isn't that fantastic? Stop painting, let it go. Okay, there. All right. What do you think? Any touch-ups? I actually think it worked out pretty well. So I know that I painted this very quickly. However, I do this every day. I literally do 10-minute paintings every day. So if you're not painting this as fast as I am, don't rush it. Don't push yourself too hard. It doesn't have to be wet. You can take breaks, take as many breaks as you want. You can go ahead and let this paint dry. The only time that you can't take a break, I'll just tell you right now, is during that background. You have to have that whole sky in before you walk away from this painting. So if you can let that part dry and then come back and then work on the rest of it, when you get your chances, yeah, you're going to be just fine. Okay, I'm just going to fill in some edges over here that are kind of bugging me. So the paint we're using is acrylic paint, and this dries normally very quickly. It's very humid today, so it's drying pretty slow today. But once it dries, it is permanent. I painted a couple of canvases this morning at about 6 o'clock, so about 12 hours ago, and I painted them outside, and then I left them sitting outside for the day. When I left at 8:30, 2.5 hours later, the paint was still wet. That's how humid it is here today. So however fast your painting dries is very much dependent on the weather. So yeah, all of us are going to have a slightly different painting experience. But this is Sunset Through the Pine Trees or something. I can't remember what it was called, but probably something similar. I hope you've enjoyed painting along with me, and I will see you next week.